Hello and welcome to this podcast today with special guest here, Myzrael, where we want to talk
Hello.
about the new cards released. There are only 9 cards released in total, so not too many, but let's first introduce Myzrael. Uh, Tell us who you are and how you came to your questions.
Uh, Hello, I'm Myzrael. I was playing before Legends of Runeterra. I was playing Hearthstone a lot, and I decided to try Legends of Runeterra for the first time in December. I got distracted a little bit by my friend who showed me Slay the Spire back then, and then competitive season in Hearthstone started, so I got a pause. And then for like straight up 2 months, I play a lot of Legends of Runeterra. I started playing with labs. I found it fun, and then I started playing expeditions a lot. Now I'm playing less expeditions and more ladder because I kind of came to Runeterra to be a constructed player, but I still really like expedition, and I hope I could have played more if there is some kind of competitive push to do that.
Nice. I saw you play on the Hearthstone Poland team as well, so be competitive.
Yeah, exactly. In the Hearthstone Poland team, in Max Team League coming up recently, also in House Rivalries together with ILH Esports. We got second place last year, so we are hungry to get a win this time. So yeah, on one of the highest levels probably in Hearthstone.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Nice to have you here. Very competitive player.
Uh,
Have Arthur as well. So Arthur, you were already raising the flags on Reddit and saying that Jayce is not in expeditions and hasn't been spotted yet. And I myself have played like 5 or 6 runs since yesterday and see Jayce at all. Elaborate on that.
Yeah, it's kind of what we feared, which was in the patch 2.19 patch notes. There was no mention of expeditions, of Jayce and his supporting cards being added. No mention of whether he would get his own archetype or whether he will be put into Grand Moment with Lux and Heimerdinger as maybe expected. Um, and after, well, I guess half a day, of playing and trying to source information from around the internet, Reddit, Discord, Twitter, absolutely nobody has spotted Jayce in expeditions or his supporting followers. What that means is that uh, Riot has either intentionally or unintentionally not put Jayce and his followers into expeditions, which is very disappointing. Normally, they'll be put in with a bonus, so you'll be able to see them pretty quickly. But obviously, everyone wants to play with the new cards, and not having them in Expedition is quite a dampener to Expedition fans. So I'd like to ask Riot um, when he would be put into Expeditions and why he hasn't been, so that we know when he'll be coming.
Yeah. And I showed that before. I purposely drafted a Grand Moments deck with Lux and Ezreal and tried to my best to get any of the base cards, Chase followers to show up. I didn't see any new buckets, so I can. Chase probably has been either forgotten or purposefully left out expeditions. And what was wondering me was that there was a reset. So basically, you couldn't just keep playing through the patch. You had to start a new expedition run. So we all thought something would have been changed by the buckets, but none of us has really noticed that significant of bucket changes. For example, I just noticed the piercing darkness. It's called black mist. So one small change would have been existed before, but nothing too significant. So why not just let expeditions carry over? Maybe the appearance bonus has been changed. That's something I noticed. I face a lot more diverse decks, not the Shyvanas, not the many copies. That would be good. Still not adding Jayce is a bit of a disappointment. Let's hope it's just a bug or an unintentional thing, and they added him in. Still want to cover the cards because eventually they will get back into it. Same happened with Cillian, by the way. He was not in expeditions. It was a little bit different because his partner Echo wasn't released yet or didn't come out yet. I want to put them both together into expeditions, not Echo alone. But
hopefully that's the case with Jayce. Maybe also there's gonna be some champion released.
Might be possible, but the problem with that is that the next expansion will be like Bandlewood, and like already have a Bandlewood and PNZ partner. Well, maybe there's another one that could be possible. I get out it a little bit because Lux makes more sense partner. What do you think about that possibility, Arthur?
That did actually just occur to me when you talked about Zillion and Echo. We're expecting maybe 3 or 4 champions from Magical Misadventures, which is in December, either the 8th or maybe the 22nd. We know one of the champions who's likely to come is Ari, and she's going to have a recall synergy based on one of the kind of Easter egg cards that they put into Ionia, the previous expansion. So if there is another kind of Grand Moment style champion, it's possible it would be kind of outside of PNZ, I guess, kind of like Lux style, but I really don't know. That's would be quite optimistic. I think the most likely scenario is that they ran out of resources to think about expeditions in time for Jayce to be put in. But it's the fact that they haven't said anything that's very disappointing.
Yeah. We'll try our best to get the right attention and get an update for you, and hopefully get Jayce into expedition as soon as possible. But so let's just talk about Jayce and the cards anyways. Will be coming into expeditions eventually, and it's helpful to have already done a bit of a set review, card review. Should obviously start with Jayce himself, a 4/4, and get quick attack or challenger, obviously an homage to his 2 hammer forms, the shot form, the quick attack, and the hammer where he jumps on you, challenger. And after casting 2 6-cost spells, he levels up as like doubling effect. The first time you cast a 6-cost spell, each round casts again. And you also get the acceleration gauge. It gives you LS +2/+0 and quick attack if they already have it, or double attack, give random keyword instead. Now the double attack is not something acceleration gauge can give, due to how Victor can't gain double attack. This is one of the keywords that's excluded from randomly gaining double attack only. It's like Ionia cards basically. So I think Jayce would be a fine follower. He's in a baseline just a Yasuo basically, 4/4 with quick attack, and he can also be a small challenger unit. He obviously becomes way stronger if you have built the requirement, like a 5/5, and of just double casting 6 spells is very powerful and its own. Your opinions?
My first question, really important, I think. Who choose what keyword Jayce is going to have? Is it random, or do we choose this?
So with the acceleration gate, it's random. You have a random keyword instead.
I mean,
but
Jayce himself, when
yeah,
you play him.
You get to choose that. Play him.
Yeah, we get to choose. So I think it's better than you think. I think this is a pretty good card because this flexibility of being capable of working with both slower decks as a 4/4 challenger and with faster deck as a 4/4 quick attack is I think pretty good, and we should also value that. So I see this card as a peak midrange, as a thing that you want in your midrange deck, because you can use it well both against aggressive decks and against slower decks, and you can choose for better scenario. I think it's possible that this champion is going, if he's gonna have good bucket, I think it's possible that this champion is going to fight for the spot of top 10 even, maybe champions, just based on the first part. I don't even think about leveling him up. I think just this could be enough, just this flexibility as a support second champion in your run.
Arthur, what is your opinion?
I also think Jayce is very strong. The fact that he's very versatile, you get to choose quick attack or challenger, is very strong depending on what you need at the moment. What's interesting is that those two keywords obviously work very well together, challenger and quick attack, which means that in the late game, you probably want the challenger ability, in the sense that if you do manage to level him up and get the acceleration gate will give it quick attack and it will already have challenger. Whereas if you gave it quick attack, it will end up getting a random keyword as well, which probably won't work together as well as quick attack plus challenger. It makes me think about what other regions that he would likely work well with. With challenger, generally you want quick attack or barrier, and then if you have quick attack, you generally want challenger. And this kind of makes sense because the regions that usually give this is mostly Demacia in terms of quick attack, barrier and challenger. And I guess Noxus can sometimes give quick attack as well. So it kind of makes sense that Jayce might work eventually with Lux in Grand Moments. Overall, I do think he's pretty strong. I don't know if he's going to be top 10 because there's quite a lot of champions now. But also thinking about when's the earliest he could level up. I guess it would be turn 6 would be the earliest. I don't think he can level up any earlier than that. But yeah, even if he does level up by then I think that would be pretty strong. So
I don't think there's any attune spell or something like that, because if you bank and then play a 6-cost spell on 3, then you play Jayce on 4, don't have 5 mana on. Unless you have like one thing that could work, it would be like the 1-cost card that strikes and like the new follower from Jayce, and you get 3 spell mana from that way. That would be very combo-esque and would happen very often. Normally, probably turn 6 would be a new reliably. But yeah, seems very flexible. I'm a little bit afraid that both halves are not as strong standalone as combined, obviously. Generally, mid-range, there's a lot of good mid-range champs. For example, Victor. So I don't think he's as strong as Lux, but because Lux is just insane. Also, mid-range champion, but provides infinite value, whereas Jayce only copies the first spell.
I think it depends on the context. As a build-around champion, I agree fully. Lux is just better if you want to have one good champion. If you picked bad champion, like let's make an example from Zillion in the first pick, you want therefore Lux over Jayce in the second pick. But if you have already one good champion, you probably want Jayce over Lux. Like if you have like Shyvana or I don't know, Poppy, you probably want Jayce over Lux in this scenario.
Sounds good. So let's move on to followers, and the first one, Watch Chief, and this is just a nice 1-mana 2/1, and on strike it refills a spell mana. So this reminds me immediately of the Eager Apprentice, also a 2/1 for 2 mana, but it just gives you 2 spell mana immediately, so basically free. Similarly, if Watch Chief also becomes free once you strike with it. Probably won't survive the strike most of the time, so I would say it's just the average 1-mana 2/1 with an upside, basically having a tune strike. I don't think it's realistic to strike like 3 or 4 times with it. Let's give it like a filler 8 instead of 10, for example.
I personally think it's a little bit better than that. I can find pretty often scenarios when you play this on one and you have an attack token and hit Nexus, so you can reliably get. So you can sometimes get 2 mana from it, and then it's pretty broken with 2 mana. And you often play it as a free card, as a 1 mana 2/1. So this is really good in aggressive strategy. I would rating probably higher, like 8 out of 10. It's top 3 cards released, I believe.
Interesting. I'm a lot more pessimistic, and instead of comparing it to Eager, is it Eager Apprentice?
Yes.
I'm comparing it to Shell Shocker from Bilgewater, the 1 mana 2/1 that has a tune. And I see this as having some upside and some downside in that you need to strike in order to refill the mana. Although it does have the upside of if it survives the strike, then it can continue gaining you mana. But overall, so I think it is sometimes better than Shell Shocker, sometimes worse than Shell Shocker. And so I think it's about on par with Shell Shocker. And if we look at Shell Shocker, it's nothing exciting. So I would think it's maybe 4 out of 10.
Yeah, different ratings from 4 out of 10 to 8 out of 10. Very interesting. I can see the downside as well from the Shell Shocker comparison if it just dies. Also different. We will see how it turns out. With it.
It's obviously an aggro card, right? If you play control, you are not excited about this.
Yeah, but conditions you can't always get.
Yeah, that's true.
So, kinda glossed over Jayce's signature spell. I kind of forgot that. Let's talk about that before we move on. It's Shock Blast, obviously a 6-mana card. It just deals 3 damage to an enemy or the Nexus and to another. So if you choose the Nexus, you only get to do damage to something else. You can't deal 6 damage to the Nexus. You have to choose 2 different targets. And again, it's pretty decent spell, I would say. Nothing that blows my mind. Removal will always be good. It's a little bit slow, but I think it's definitely playable out of 10. Can of course be broken if you kill 2 high value targets, but again it's slow. Sometimes you don't have 2 targets, sometimes it doesn't kill. It's a decent card for Jayce to flip as well if you just double it. I'm not thinking it's Judgment, for example. Your opinions?
I agree with you on that. I think this is a decent card. This is what I would say 6 out of 10. Actually, it's obviously if it's gonna work together well with a good synergistic deck, like with Jayce Lux, for example, combo, it's gonna be broken in that deck. That's obvious because 6 mana and it flips Lux and it helps flipping Jayce. But normally in normal deck without high synergistic potential, it's 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I would agree with that rating as well. 6 damage for 6 mana is about on rate if we're thinking about Thermogenic Beam. But the fact that this can target 2 things is very strong, so you can innate do a 2-for-1 on its own. The fact that it can potentially do 3 to the face in the end as well, in the end game when you need to burn out someone, is very good as well. Yeah.
Okay. Next, we have the Ferros Financier. I don't know if it's French or like English. I'm not. And he is basically a Flash of Brilliance on a stick that manifests a 6-cost spell from regions. And I've been recently working on some slides to show which regions have the best 6-cost spells and generally how the random pools look. In C is generally pretty balanced. We have like 2 good ones, a bunch of mediocre ones, and bad ones. Funnily enough, Targon only has like cost spells. Like the Targon ones are the Sunburst, give a minion in your hand +8/+8, and Sky's Descent, which is obviously most of the time. This will vary a lot on how or which regions you will be playing. And it's different from the Mage Seeker Investigator, where you just get a random one. One is from your regions. still think a unit that just gives you a free card and is also manifest, so you don't get a random one, it's better than a Flash of Brilliance. It's pretty strong. Just a good card advantage card, and manifest you have a very bigger chance of just hitting the right card. I would give it like a 7 or 8 out of 10.
I'm gonna agree with the rating of 7 out of 10. It's a good card. It's worse than Contrologist because getting a cheaper spell is normally better than getting a more expensive one. Obviously, it's much better in Jayce archetype, but on average, I think it's gonna be like 7 out of 10. You probably want to combine it with like obviously Demacia because they're great spells. And I was also thinking about Noxus because there are some cards that you probably want to get from this, like Strength in Numbers or Weapons of the Lost. So 7 out of 10 is, I think, a fair rating here.
Noxus actually has just 3 6+ cards. The third one you didn't mention is the Reckoning. Might be bad, but see it also being useful in some.
I also think it's probably 7 or 8 out of 10, maybe on the 8 side. I think comparing to Contrologist is fair because Contrologist is also a very strong card. 2 mana 2/2 that manifests a card. Whether you want a cheap card or whether you want an expensive card depends on where you are in the game and what kind of style you want to play. So having an early game blocker that generates you card advantage in the late game is very strong. So we've seen that from kind of Solari Priestess. All you need is just kind of a blocker on the ground before you kind of finish the game with the manifested spells. You being able to choose the spell is huge. It's compared to the Mage Seeker, it makes a huge difference. So I think this would be a very strong card.
Definitely one I would immediately turn Prismatic out. Card generation cards. Always the first ones. I would Prismatic. You a fan of Prismatics? Ex-Prismatic?
I make only favorite cards prismatic. My first prismatic card is Lux. I made Lux prismatic. Next one is gonna be Twisted Fate. So only favorite cards.
I play mostly expeditions, so I burn through my prismatic gems on common cards because I see them the most. So Ferros Financier would probably be made prismatic very quickly as well. As soon as I get one in a deck, and if I have 100, then I would probably make him prismatic as well.
Hey. Next card is more tech support. Hextech Handler, which is mana 3/2 with quick attack, and once you've cast a 6-cost spell this game, or 6+ cost spell, grants tech allies everywhere +1/+1. Wondering what a tech ally is? We have the Heimerdinger turrets, which count for being tech, and we also have the card that produces Heimerdinger turrets called Production Surge, also produces tech units. Then we have Mr. McDonald's, the Adaptatron 3000, who also counts as a tech and shares tech keywords. Quite a bit what mainly supposed to be paired with. Oh, we also have the Glorious Evolution, so if you cast this 10-cost spell, all of your units are tech now, and they will get +1/+1 as well. Tech. Quite an interesting card, probably won't come up too often, but just a 3 mana 3/2 that turns into a 4/3 later on with quick attack. It's playable in my opinion. Just put it into my deck. I have like 2 or 3 6-cost spells of a filler card. Probably better in aggressive decks with quick attack. Obviously, if you're playing Heimerdinger, it becomes very strong.
I have to fully agree on what you said. This is a good aggressive card. 3 mana 3/2 quick attack is okay. It can get to 3 mana 4/3 later, and just from this, it's okay in an aggressive card. If you need a good card that can help you get better curve, this is probably a good choice.
So Adaptatron is not in Expeditions, right?
No, it's not, but maybe it gets put in once.
Maybe one day, along with Jayce. So I do think he's very strong with Heimerdinger, but outside of that, I don't think he's great. 3 mana, 3/2 quick attack. I think it's a bit understated because we have plenty of 3 mana, 4/2 quick attacks, and they're not broken or anything. And the thing about quick attack is that as soon as their toughness outgrows your power, so in the mid game or late game, it eventually stops being useful at all. So even though it does get to grow later on, as early as turn 4, but more effectively probably later, as soon as they have anything with a lot of toughness, the quick attack fails to mean anything anymore. So I think it's going to be a fairly mediocre card outside of Heimerdinger decks.
One thing that factors in my opinion, is that it's in PC. By the way, the other two quick attack cards are Arena Kingpin with a 4/2 and Senna, Sentinel of Light. Very strong cards in Expeditions. And with PNC, the quick attack is especially painful because you can, for example, your Mystic Shot, if they block with a 3/5 and then it turns into a and then kill it. Similarly with Combat Tricks, but just like Mystic Shot as well, because if they remove it, at least you dealt damage to it. I don't think there's that many 4/2 quick attackers. I don't see any other. It's two was champions.
You could also compare it to the 2 mana 3/1 quick attack. I think that's PNZ, and I don't think that's swinging very much either. So
it's only in one card pool, the Death Store. Don't really see it that often. Different opinions again, but very interesting. So next card we have is a landmark. It's the first one that changes a card pool. You can get this landmark now if you play Thalia flip spell, but that's not really relevant at all. And what it does is it summons a Forge Worker, so already a 3 mana 3/3, as long as you have 2 spaces on the board. And you cast a 6-cost spell, you destroy it, fill your spell mana. Basically a mana bank. You get a 3/3 immediately, and then after you cast a 6-cost spell, you get mana back you spent on this land. In my opinion, that's very strong. You have some 6-cost spells, and otherwise it's just a filler unit basically. But if you have a few 6-cost spells, this becomes very strong. It's ability to do a huge power turn. Maybe cast multiple spells in one turn. It seems a great card for me. If you don't have that many 6-cost spells, it's still just a 3 average. Say it's like 7 or 8 out of 10.
The first time I checked this card, I thought the effect is broken, like a great thing to bank a lot of mana. You can use it later and swing the game, make a great swing turn. But the more I think about this card, the more I think it's not that great. The idea that the spell mana comes after you play the spell, so you spend 6 real mana and you get only 3 spell mana. So the spell that you play have to develop some board. So to make the full advantage of the card, you have to have a good spell that can develop the board, like Remembrance. I think so. At first glance, I thought it's like 10 out of 10. It's like it's a broken card and it's gonna be picked every time. Now I think like this is about it like more like Conan. I think it's around like 7 out of 10 range. It's a good card, but it's not that broken that I thought at first.
interesting. It seems like I'm the pessimist of the group because I think a 3 mana 3/3 is about pretty understated, to be honest. A 3 mana 3/4 is Loyal Badger Bear, and that's nothing exciting. And in fact, we now have Badger Bears with upside in the 3 mana slot that are stronger. So, you know, if we look at Succession, 3 mana 3/3, which could potentially be cast on turn 2, that's nothing exciting either. Obviously, the upside is here in the sense that it's a landmark, and you can potentially refill your spell mana. But that spell mana is essentially giving you three spell mana back, and it's down to how you can leverage it later on that is helpful. If you can make use of it as early as possible, then it's stronger. But I think in expeditions, what is most likely is that you'll cast your 6-cost spell, you'll get your spell mana back. You maybe be able to make use of 1 or 2 of that this turn, and then later on it will just be kind of spell mana that ends up getting burnt anyway. So.
Yeah, I think this card is the best utilized to blow up the landmark around 10-6-8. Like you develop the board with a big spell, and then you have combat trick to swing in your favor with the spell mana. This is probably the best usage of it.
Maybe some more statistics for the back of it. We have 93 3-cost followers, and average stats from them, excluding the Emerald one, is 2.63 and 2.67. So we have the exceptions of the 4s and some 4-3s. Those 3-4s are only in the mass here, since these generally more of a stat region. Just by looking at these cards, it's still okay in my opinion. Like every deck always has a 3-4 on the mass deck.
Presumably the understated ones, like 3 mana 2/3s and things, they'll have abilities that is more useful than this though.
Sometimes, like I said, it's 93. Will be a full list of all of them next. But sure, it's not that important. But most of them are still 3. There are 3-4-3, 3-3-4s.
Yeah, it's still mana cheating, and it doesn't come with a lot of loss in initiative. So I believe it's gonna be at least decent as a card.
Yeah. I think we can agree on it being decent. Maybe it will be better than that. Maybe it doesn't. We have to find out when it comes to expeditions. Okay, next one I think will be pretty insane. The Ferros Skycruiser, a 4-mana 2/4, which turns into with elusive, which turns into a 4/4 elusive once you've cast a 6-cost spell this turn. Already a big, hard to kill elusive unit. Probably just play this on its own as a 4-mana 2/4 if I have a decent enough control package surrounding it so that I just don't die. If I ever turn this into a 4-mana 4/4 elusive, that's insane. It's basically the biggest elusive except for the Empyrean. And just massive damage, and it's hard to kill for many decks. I think this card is definitely. If you don't have any 6-cost spells, it's probably more like a 6 out of 10, but if you have 3 or 4, I would say 8 out of 10.
I'm a lot more pessimistic about this card, honestly. I think it's too often 4-mana 2/4. Decks that want to play this card doesn't really want to play 6-cost spells normally, because if you play this card, you probably want to kill your opponent with minions on board. You try to go initiative. So more reliable way, I think, is gonna be to spam the board from the early game and try to snowball. And if you want to play this card later in the game, it's easier for decks to remove it. So it's not gonna be as impactful. I'm more pessimistic. I'm gonna rate it like a 5 out of 10.
I'm also with a pessimist on this one. I think we can all agree that a 4-mana 2/4 elusive is maybe average or even understated, but a 4-mana 4/4 elusive is very strong. But I think the fact that I agree that it's a bit off synergy with Myzrael, that if you're trying to do the turn 4 4/4 elusive by maybe banking your spell mana on turns 1 and 2, and then casting something on 6-cost on turn 3, maybe the assembly line card that we're going to preview later. These kind of turns doesn't really mesh in terms of how aggressive this card wants to be, because elusive is essentially kind of an effect. It's an evasive effect that is trying to burn the opponent out. It's not looking for tempo as much. It's looking at the life total and trying to evade. So I do think it's a little bit off synergy. Saying that, I actually think it will probably be a 2-4 most of the time until end of the game, when they'll probably find some way of removing it. So I do think that most of the game it will be understated. So I also think it's fairly mediocre.
Yeah, time will tell. And see, and one card this reminds me a little bit of is the 6-mana Ionia card that was like a burst spell and it's like a 5/6 and it's enlightened. It gets elusive. See this more as such a finisher as well. Whereas the other card is way stronger. Clears. Gathered Pot, it's called.
That has very recently been adapted to have that ability, right?
So it has been only recently added to the game. There is another Veil that's called Cloud Drink. This one was.
Scattered Pod is new. Oh, okay, yeah, they all look the same to me. The art is all pretty similar.
Of course, this Gathered Pot is way stronger than the Ferros card. Still think it could be the same late game finisher, but we will see.
I don't think I've ever actually played with or against that card before, Scattered Pod. I do remember seeing it in previews and thinking that actually seems decent.
So the next card I actually find really, really annoying because it shows the its assembly line and it shows the Forged Chief like in the picture, but it actually doesn't summon just 2 ones, it summons 2 Forged Workers. Why don't you just show the Forged Worker in the picture? I was really confused and thought this card was terrible, just 6 mana for 2 2/1s. Actually summons 2. Pretty simple effect. Obviously enables all of your 6-cost synergies, and I think it will do that pretty decently. Probably 5 or 6 to the other card that summons a 5/5 for.
I think it's worse than you think. I think double 3/3 on 6 is not as good. It's obviously gonna be pretty good in big spells archetypes, and it's gonna be good on 3 like Remembrance. But I think this is all of the good usages of this card. So maybe you're not gonna be annoyed by this avatar. You're not gonna see it a lot in expeditions, honestly. So, so I would rate it like 5 out of 10, probably 2. I'm not gonna try to push it lower.
Funnily enough, I had a similar mistake in the sense that when I first read The Forge of Tomorrow, I thought that created the 2/1 that strikes and refill 1 spell mana. So I thought that was really terrible until I realized it actually gave a 3/3, which is much better. 6 mana for 2 3/3s, I think is not great. It's nothing like Strength in Numbers, where they basically bounce off each other and make them better. The earliest you can do this is turn 3, but 2 3/3s on turn 3 is nothing special, not compared to someone who has had a start of playing drops on turn 1, 2, and 3. However, I do think this is actually, even though I don't think it's a very good card, I think it might be quite a crucial card, quite an important card, because this is one way where you can cast a 6 mana spell reliably on turn 3 if you float your turn 1 and turn 2, and it's all tempo basically. Whereas normally with PNZ 6 mana spells, you usually end up with some removal or something like that. That you might not actually want to do on turn 3. This is something that you can do on turn 3, even though it's nothing exciting. It will add to the board and it will help you shore up any kind of defenses if they've curved out on the board already. So, and these kind of plays on turn 3 allows you to do things like the Ferros Skycruiser and get it to proc the ability that you've cast a 6-cost spell this game. So yeah, I think it's not particularly strong, but I think it might be important if you're looking for those 6-cost synergies and you are trying to turbo them out.
You probably need a lot of synergies to make it work. I can agree on that.
I think a 5/5 is stronger for 6 mana or 2/3. I think swarm strategies, for example.
It depends on the situation. If I play against Shyvana, I choose 5/5. If I play against Poppy, I choose double 3/3.
Poppy who's attacking, I might want the 5/5 as well.
Yeah, but I can block 2 units and clear some of the stuff before Poppy buffs it with double 3/3, and I cannot do it with this effectively with 5/5.
I'm guessing you were trying to compare it to Remembrance, is that right?
No, to the unlicensed innovation.
Oh, okay. I forgot that card existed. Well, just a quick straw poll. I think that card is pretty bad. What do you guys think?
I think it's playable. Play it until 5, it's okay-ish later. 5 out of 10 for me.
I don't think it's very strong. I would prefer not picking it. And I think comparing 2/3/3s or a 5/5, I probably want the 2/3/3s. And yes, it is situational, but I think in more situations I would want the 3/3, and in less situations I wouldn't want the 5/5. But I think both of these are probably worse than Remembrance, because obviously Remembrance brings out something usually stronger than just the 5/5, and also has the cost reduction as well. So yeah, and I don't even think Remembrance is that strong.
Yeah.
Remembrance always brings a 5/5 or a 4/5 random keywords like Angel.
Yeah, Remembrance is far stronger than this card, and you don't even always want to play Remembrance on 3. So how you can want to make your game plan to play this on 3?
Yeah. So cards revealed. Next up we have Hextech Anomaly, the first focus spell in C. Focus spell, but just turns into random 6-cost spell each turn. Actually, I think this card is decent, especially in expeditions where you don't get to choose your cards free. Probably take a 6-cost spell. Very importantly, it keeps transforming each time. While it's in your hand, it keeps transforming. You have a bad card, you can just wait 1 turn and it transforms into kind of similar to this Hearthstone card. I don't know what it's called. Transforms into a card from your opponent's hand.
Chameleon, yeah, Chameleon.
It's just called Chameleon.
There was a lot of cards like that. There was like Shifter Zerus that turns into random legendary. Mage had a random spell. There were a lot of cards with a similar effect, and they all sucked. So I believe it's gonna be true as well. Hextech Anomaly is the worst card we discussed today. We're gonna discuss today. It's I believe it's very bad. The idea that it's random for a lot of time. You can so you have the card in hand and you basically play with one less card for the moment that RNG Jesus is going to give you something, and it might not give you in the current game. So it's of course gonna be a good meme card. I'm gonna play it a lot. That's for sure. But it's 2 out of 10. Sometimes it's going to win you the game, but it's gonna be very unlikely, and most likely it's gonna just sit in your hand doing nothing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think it's a very strong card, but I also agree that it is going to be a very fun card if it comes into expeditions. I mean, it's similar to the patch Porobot that we spoke about last week. That is not in expeditions either. Where but on that, it's at least a little more reliable in terms of you know what you'll be getting at the base. This one, you have no idea whether you're going to be getting something that puts tempo on the board, something that is removal, something that is just out of reach when maybe it will turn into something that is, 10 mana or something when you have 7 mana available. So I think the randomness is a bit too much to make it strong or reliable. So it's very high variance, but interestingly enough, despite that high variance, I also think it's quite skill testing in that a more skilled player would be able to know when to kind of pull the trigger on this and play it, and when to wait, and also make use of the more situational cards that the card might morph into. So I think it's interesting. I don't think it's particularly strong, but I do think it will be fun if we get to play with it.
The card pool is actually pretty balanced. I rated all of the 6 space into like good, playable, and bad. Like 21 were good, 24 were playable, and 19 were bad. Average kid, like average card, but of course, like Arthur said, it's always coming down to the situation. You might get a judgment. It's usually a good card, but maybe not if you're attacking or not blocking this. Don't say it's a good card, it's just like, I would say like a 4 out of 10. Let's call it unplayable.
Yeah, the biggest problem with this card is that you're gonna have like 3-4 shots only, because you can play it only after some turn 6, and it's gonna be often more expensive than you have mana actually. So it's gonna be unlikely to even get an option to play this for reasonable value in many games. Of course, there are some great options. You can get harsh winds in some key situation, or Winter's Breath even. Winter's Breath is great synergy with Jayce. We didn't even talk about this, but normally it's not gonna work. But as I said, I'm gonna play it a lot. Therefore.
Showing you the viewers Winter's Breath really quickly. Double that card, kills all the enemies. It also works, by the way, with Senna. You can cast Winter's Breath as fast speed with Senna to fast speed. Frostbite the whole board from your opponent. It's a kill on quite interesting actions.
Yeah.
So the last card is
classic combo with Karma.
Yeah, it also combos with Karma.
Yeah.
The last card actually is Albus Ferros. Not sure what this guy is doing in the lore, but in the game he's drawing Jayce, so he's basically a boat. All the cards that draw you another champion, because most of them were boats, but now we have Albus Ferros and Darwin the Third, which are actually not boats, but are called boats. Then on the attack it deals 1 to the enemy nexus, and for each 6-cost spell it kills by 1. Now in a Jayce deck it probably will be good, decent, just drawing you your champion, strong, even 7. And otherwise, I don't know how strong this card will really. Basically just a 6/5 quick attack with impact 1 most of the time, and that one would just be too vanilla for me. A7. With Jayce, I would say it's like a 7, 8 out of 10. Out Jayce out of 10.
I think only Jayce is not enough. You have to have also synergistic deck to actually make Jayce a game-winning card. So Ferros will be good. If you draw Jayce but you cannot level Jayce up, Albus Ferros is still very bad and doesn't do anything for you. I'm more pessimistic about that. I think card is gonna be very bad. Of course, it's gonna be playable in highly synergistic Jayce decks, but it's gonna be very bad otherwise, like 3 out of 10.
I think it's similar to most boats, where if you have a Jayce in your deck, ideally 2, so that you don't end up with Jayce in your hand and then you play Albus Ferros and he doesn't have anything more to draw. Then he's actually decent with Jayce, but I do think he's pretty bad without. This ability, which is kind of like Impact X, is interesting, and the fact that he has quick attack is good in the sense that he might actually be able to attack multiple times, hopefully, to finish the game. However, as I mentioned before, quick attack is an ability that quickly gets kind of outscaled in the late game, and anytime the opponent has toughness kind of 7 or more, which granted is pretty rare even in the late game, the quick attack won't really mean anything. The fact that I guess he already has quick attack and how it interacts with Jayce's acceleration gate might be useful as well, in the sense that once you boost up its power, it's going to be able to survive even more combats. Because if he has 8 or 10 attack, he's almost definitely surviving those attacks and being able to impact even further. But yeah, I think he's decent with Jayce and a flip Jayce, but pretty bad without.
My point is that it is a little bit better statted than, in my opinion, other boats like King Jarvan and Siren. It's the 3-7 or a 3-6. It's the 6-5. Say after the Dreadway Leviathan, you best read the task raiders. Maybe it's just bad, but I still think the stats are more valuable. Basically how's it called? The 6-6 that gets reduced by the spells you cast. Boundary.
Honestly, I'm not sure about that. If stats are better here, since if you play both, you want to make a power play with your champion, so your boat should be used to block and to make you survive longer. This would be probably main purpose for that. So having a less health is not good, honestly. I think.
Probably will never be playing with these current expeditions anyway. I think. But so that concludes our view of these cards. I hope you liked it, and we pick a card moment. Okay, switching over to these buckets and to the pick a card section, where we just do the first 2 picks. Don't have Herco here today to tell us which one is on the tier list, the top, but we have our own opinion. So Arthur, do we want to go over the cards with us and what's your opinion?
Yep, sure. So, in my opinion, we have kind of 3 fairly mediocre to bad packs. So the first one with Renekton, Renekton is okay, I think, especially since he got buffed earlier, so that he can level up a bit earlier than before. So I think Renekton is okay, but I think Shurima is not in a great place at the moment in Expedition, so it's not as reliable. Callous Bone Crusher is nothing special. It's rare that you can actually get his cost down to a point where it actually matters. Usually it either happens not at all, or it happens in the late game where the reduced mana cost doesn't matter as much. Weight of Judgment, I think, is okay as well. I think it's decent removal, but yeah, again, nothing special. So overall, I think that pack is solid, but nothing special. Second pack, token attacks. Irelia is unfortunately very bad right now. It's been a long time since she was as strong as upon she was released. Nerf after nerf has meant that it's kind of like the meme in League of Legends, better nerf Irelia. So she's at a point where I would say she's practically unplayable these days, which is very unfortunate. And because of that, her supporting cards, Blossoming Blade, is also not very strong either, and not very reliable. Homecoming is okay, but overall, I think this pack, just because of how held back Aurelia is now, I think it's not very strong. Terrors from the Deep, so both Nautilus and Abyssal Eye are okay. Deep decks are a little bit stronger in the kind of earlier part of the draft when you only have 30 to 33 cards, but when you have 36 onwards, it's a bit harder to actually make work. And I've talked about Shell Shocker earlier, and I don't think it's anything impressive. 1 mana 2/1 attune is nothing special, so I don't think I like that pack very much either. Between the three of them, I would probably go for the first pack, the Renekton one, because I think even though it's nothing special, I think individually in terms of raw power, at least it's a bit stronger than the other packs. Whereas the Nautilus and Abyssal Eye have higher upside, but it also requires more synergy and it involves you having to go deeper into deep, basically, pun intended. Whereas the Renekton bucket kind of that pack means it can kind of pair with anything fairly decently and pull its own weight.
Okay, so you're voting for Renekton.
Mhm.
Myzrael, what's your opinion?
My opinion is I want to reroll here. I want to buy a reroll token. I'm not gonna pick this. This is terrible. But if I have to pick, if I would play this, I would pick Irelia because I like the champion. She's bad, but I like her playstyle anyway, and constantly try to make her work. But if I need to suggest someone to play something, it would be obviously Renekton. So I'm gonna vote Irelia then.
Oh, okay, you're voting Aurelia. Interesting. So for me, I think the vulnerable card pool is very strong. It has a lot of 4-cost cards as we see in this pack, but it's basically the same as the challenger card pool, and both have Rockhopper, really solid curve, and Shurima in general, if you pick the good stat units and not the weird combo cards like Predict, I think is decent. I had a 7-0 Renekton Lulu run recently, where you just support and blocks. Definitely solid choice. I don't like Aurelia anymore after her nerfs. Didn't play with her that much, but she has a pretty low win rate. Token attacks bucket was always there. Only side was always bad. You always had these recoil cards and shadow shift and shadows from the past. Just pretty abysmal in my opinion. Ferros from the Deep was recently buffed, and I really like playing Deep. It's a very strong combo deck, and I really like combo decks. So if I would have to vote, I would probably vote for Nautilus actually, but it would be very unreliable, and because we want to be educational and not just draft very fun decks and don't want to fight over which one to pick.
Yeah, so it's obviously Renekton then.
Yes, let's go for Renekton because both of these other ones are more synergetic and more high risk, high reward, basically.
Yeah, this is honestly a pretty cool pick because we all opt for our comfort picks here. Because when the champions are worse, you are trying to opt for our comfort picks normally. So this is why Arthur is voting Renekton. This is why you are going for Nautilus, and this is why I want Irelia because we are feeling this champion better. Is it true, Arthur? Because I'm not sure about Renekton and you how you get along.
I don't actually play Renekton that much, and I used to play a lot of Aurelia when Aurelia was strong. I really like her playstyle as well, but unfortunately she's just been nerfed so much that I don't think she's very strong anymore. So yeah, if we're looking to get wins, I think the Renekton pack will lead you down a better path.
More reliable, but if you want to go 7, Nautilus has a good shot at that. So go 0, little pack. No, just joking. Okay, let's take Renekton then. And
Funny story, today I actually had someone who cast Weight of Judgment on my Towering Stonehorn, the 6 mana 7/7 from Demacia. So he must have thought it's a follower. It does 7 damage to the 7/7. That's perfect. I'm trading up my 4 mana for his 6 mana. But he didn't read a text of I don't take damage from enemy spells or skills. So it literally, I was quite surprised, and I checked TI if it would work. It did not work. It just basically didn't do anything. It just fizzled. Incredibly, I actually lost that game because he had Siphoning Strike and Sivir leveled up. But I just thought it was funny that I hadn't seen that interaction so blatantly before. Weight of Judgment, which seems perfect for killing a Towering Stonehorn.
And I find it surprising how little people like Weight of Judgment. It's basically kill a follower or Mystic Shot a champion. Compare it to like Scrap Shot, for example. Of course, it's like fast speed, but it's 7 mana. I actually really like Weight of Judgment. Was that it's a 5
I agree
off,
on
but
Judgment. I think it's a strong card.
so let's pick Renekton. See who's. Hey, very interesting set of cards. I have a clear favorite, but let's have Arthur talk about the cards first.
Okay, sure. So from the left again, we have Xerath with Buried Sundisk and Bomber Twins. Given that we had taken Renekton, we could actually make a Mono Shurima deck here with Buried Sundisk, rather than chancing Xerath first and taking Buried Sundisk and potentially not being even able to be offered a Mono Shurima deck. But that is a possibility here. But I don't think Xerath is a very strong champion at all. I think you're kind of bending over backwards to make his synergies work, and even when they do, he's not particularly strong or particularly easy to defend. Bomber Twins is about on par for a 2-drop, but I think the rest of the pack and that archetype is weak enough that I generally disregard any Xerath packs I get offered. So the middle pack with Nami, Nami was recently nerfed slightly, but I don't think it impacts her too much in expeditions. I also don't think she's particularly strong anyway, so I'm not looking to try and pair Renekton up with Nami in particular. Tidal Wave is a little too unpredictable in the sense that despite you having only kind of 30 to 36 cards and you being able to draw the Tidal Wave more easily, it's not a good card until you get to its final form, which is pretty late. So I don't think Tidal Wave is great. Mariah Great Mother is very much a meme card. It's very high variance. It has certainly won and lost games on its own, but it's pretty unreliable, so I don't think it's that strong. So overall, I think that middle pack is not particularly strong, but probably still stronger than the Xerath pack, just because Xerath is so weak. And then we have the last pack, which is obviously very strong. Poppy is one of the best champions in Runeterra, and just works very well with everything. Bandle City is also fantastic in expeditions as well. So going into Bandle City is certainly an upgrade from starting with just Shurima. The Bandle Commando is a very strong 2-drop that, if not dealt with, will just continually generate you advantage in terms of value and in terms of blockers. And then Stone Stackers is an okay 2-drop, even though it's had a slight nerf from the tough to the 2/3 now. I think it's doable as a 2-drop, probably similar to the Bomber Twins. One interesting question I have actually is, even though it says Bomber Twins is so Bomber Twins is it just Bandle City? It's not mono. It's not Shurima.
It's Bundle Shurima. I play Bundle 3, I know it's Bundle Shurima.
Yes, it's both, so it doesn't ruin your Sundisk.
Right. Okay. So you can still have Mono Shurima if you go with that.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it doesn't matter because here I think Poppy is a fairly obvious pick, and starting off Renekton Poppy is pretty strong. I think that's quite reliable. Whereas Xerath and Nami are along the bottom tier champions.
Hey.
Yeah, as I said off record, I would not even check other cards. I would just snap pick Poppy here because I don't agree with Arthur saying that Poppy is one of the best champions in Legends of Runeterra. It's the best champions in Legends of Runeterra. It's the best card in Expeditions, I believe, and it works well with everything. You can pick it together with any other champion and almost always have good synergy. You also have in this bucket a Bundle Commando, which, as I said in one of our educational drafts for one of the persons from our Discord, I'm simple man. When I see bundle commando, I pick bundle commando. And it's also Stone Stackers, which is above average, I think. Still, it's a 2-mana 2/3, really good vanilla unit, and also hits with impact, so help close out games this way. Obviously, if you want to have some fun and try to flip Sandys, you can pick Serat because you can go Mono Shurima, and Nami is more of a combo playstyle, which which is not very reliable in expeditions, I think. So for me, it's easy poppy. I would not even think about this pick when I would have it offered in draft.
Okay, I fully have to agree with you. I've said before that there's one morally right pick and one pick if you want to win games. If you want to win games, just want to get your 7 wins, pick Poppy. The day, definitely best choice here. And you have a mid-range deck, play units on curve and running your opponent over. You're also very strong with Shurima, being able to choose who Poppy blocks, and Poppy doesn't block with a vulnerable Necton pool. Just very strong and forward. But like, I get to play with his Sandisk so rarely that this is my draft. I will probably just pick up his Sandisk. But once again, if you want to win, pick Poppy here. Okay, so that concludes our episode on the new cards, and hope you learned something. And thanks Myzrael and Arthur for coming. Hope to see you again in other podcasts.
Thank you for having me, Conan.
Yep, thanks for having me as usual, and watch Arcane and simp for Vi, please.